Our own mind can deceive us and lead us away from the goals we set for ourselves. Imagine you decide to adopt a healthier lifestyle with clear goals like exercising regularly and improving your diet. At first you're motivated, but soon you start postponing your trips to the gym. You promise yourself that you'll start on Monday, but when the day comes, a feeling of fatigue or discouragement arises and you give up. This example shows that, despite having well-defined goals and a detailed plan, we often find ourselves engaging in behaviors that steer us off course. We make decisions that seem illogical, face unexpected mental blocks, and sometimes even develop physical symptoms like headaches or fatigue, preventing us from moving forward. This feeling of self-sabotage can be frustrating, leaving us confused as to why we can't achieve what we desire. But why does this happen? Why do we sometimes ruin our own plans for no apparent reason? Carl Jung, the renowned Swiss psychiatrist, dedicated much of his career to exploring the unconscious and came to some fascinating conclusions about this phenomenon. He identified a component of our psyche called the shadow, which represents a psychological space within the unconscious where we store the unwanted aspects of our personality. These parts of ourselves, which we deem unacceptable, are repressed either because our parents or society disapproved of them or because they bring us pain. However, as Jung warns, repressing these aspects doesn't solve the problem and can even lead to serious consequences, as these repressed parts take on a life of their own and operate in the shadows beyond our conscious control. This is where self-sabotage truly begins. These repressed parts of our personality act against our conscious mind, and we end up at war with ourselves without understanding what we are really fighting. Fortunately, Jung offers a solution. Instead of repressing what's in the shadow, we must integrate these aspects into our conscious personality. This can only be done by bringing to light what is hidden in the unconscious. As Jung states in Psychological Types, the conscious mind is easily influenced by unconscious elements, which are often truer and wiser than our conscious thoughts. There's a common misconception when discussing the shadow. Many people believe it's simply the negative side of our personality. While the shadow can cause problems, it's much more than that. It's a place within the psyche where we hide the parts of ourselves that we're not yet ready to confront or integrate, whether due to trauma or other reasons. When we talk about shadow work and integrating it, the goal isn't to incorporate the shadow itself, but rather the repressed contents it holds. These contents are parts of our personality that have been hidden away, and once brought into the light of consciousness, they cease to be shadowed. There is nothing inherently negative about these repressed aspects. The issue is that when they operate outside of our awareness, they cause problems due to this disconnection. Additionally, it's important to understand that these parts are not merely isolated traits. As Jung clarifies, unconscious motives often override our conscious decisions, especially in crucial matters. These fragments of personality that dwell in the shadow are like mini-personalities, each with its own needs and agendas, which may or may not conflict with the goals of our conscious personality, the ego, the part of us we recognize as I. Just as the ego has its own demands, these shadow aspects also have theirs, and their agendas can interfere with our conscious objectives. Self-sabotage is a phenomenon that occurs when our behaviors, often unconscious, go against our own goals and interests. Carl Jung, one of the great thinkers in psychology, believed that the key to overcoming these self-destructive behaviors lies in self-knowledge. According to him, we all have an unconscious, a part of the mind that holds desires, fears, and traumas that are not always evident. When we ignore this part of ourselves, it can take control of our actions without us realizing, resulting in self-sabotage. For Jung, the path to overcoming this begins with individuation, the process of integrating the conscious and the unconscious. By facing and understanding the hidden aspects of our psyche, we can identify the roots of self-sabotage. Many of our destructive behaviors stem from fears or beliefs that have been repressed throughout life. Jung believed that healing lies in bringing these elements to light and confronting them. Jung emphasized that to overcome self-sabotage, it is essential to develop a dialogue with the dark self, what he called the shadow. The shadow is composed of all the parts of ourselves that we do not accept or reject. These are emotions, impulses, and aspects of our personality that we deny, but which continue to exist, influencing our actions unconsciously. Ignoring the shadow does not make it disappear. On the contrary, it keeps it active in the unconscious, generating internal conflicts and sabotaging behaviors. Self-sabotage often arises when these repressed aspects of our psyche struggle to surface but find no space in our conscious self. This can manifest as procrastination, fear of success, or self-destructive patterns in our relationships. By recognizing and integrating these elements, we can reduce the power they have over us. As Jung stated, what you resist persists. Therefore, accepting and confronting these aspects of oneself is the first step toward overcoming them. Jung believed that individuation, the process of integrating the conscious and unconscious, is a long and complex journey, but essential to overcoming self-sabotage. One of the most effective methods to begin this process is through introspection and dream analysis. For Jung, dreams are a gateway to the unconscious, revealing symbols and messages that can help us understand what is hidden in our minds. These symbols are like clues that, when deciphered, lead us to comprehend our deeper motivations, including those that sabotage us. In addition to dream analysis, meditation and the practice of being present in the moment are also useful tools to avoid self-sabotage. When we allow ourselves to quiet the mind and pay attention to our thoughts and emotions, we begin to notice the patterns that lead us to self-sabotage. With this awareness, we can gradually reconfigure our behavior. Jung reminds us that transformation doesn't happen overnight, but is the result of constant effort to integrate the unconscious. Jung also spoke about the importance of cultivating an attitude of self-acceptance to overcome self-sabotage. Often, we sabotage our progress because we hold an idealized image of who we think we should be, and any deviation from that image causes frustration and fear. This can lead us to avoid opportunities that might bring us success out of fear of not living up to those expectations. However, Jung believed that true healing and growth come from accepting oneself with all of one's imperfections and contradictions. Self-acceptance doesn't mean resigning oneself to mediocrity or failure, but rather recognizing that we are beings in constant development. By embracing our flaws and limitations, we can begin to work more effectively to overcome them without the burden of excessive self-criticism. When we allow ourselves to be vulnerable and imperfect, we create space for genuine growth. As Jung famously said, "I'd rather be whole than good." Being whole means integrating all parts of ourselves, and this is essential to overcoming self-sabotage. Another Jungian concept that helps us deal with self-sabotage is the process of individuation, which consists of becoming what Jung called the self, someone who embraces all parts of their psyche. During individuation, we need to integrate both the positive and negative aspects of our personality. This process helps us break free from the cycle of sabotage because it allows us to understand and accept our internal contradictions rather than fighting against them. An important point is that self-sabotage often arises from the fear of change. The unconscious, especially when dominated by the shadow, prefers familiarity, even if that means remaining in self-destructive patterns. By committing to the process of individuation, we learn to make peace with the unknown and face change as an opportunity for growth. When we accept that transformation is part of the journey, resistance diminishes and the barriers we create for ourselves begin to dissolve. Remember that the journey to overcoming self-sabotage is an ongoing process filled with self-discovery. Carl Jung taught us that true growth happens when we have the courage to face our shadows and embrace the parts of ourselves we often ignore. Each challenge and each failure are disguised opportunities that, when accepted with love and compassion, strengthen us and make us more whole. Instead of criticizing yourself, look at yourself with kindness and recognize that you are a being in evolution. Visualize your goals and allow yourself to dream big. Believe that you deserve to achieve your desires and that every step, no matter how small, brings you closer to your truth. Let go of limiting beliefs and make space for confidence, because you have the power to rewrite your narrative. The path to self-knowledge and personal fulfillment begins with the first step, the decision to believe in yourself.